Welcome to Escaping Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week, leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know how to start this episode. Yes. So, I guess, okay, let me preface this. Even though we're on the opposite side of the Atlantic Ocean, we're both experiencing thunderstorms. So, if you hear a rumble of thunder in the background, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get it out. But just so you know that apparently North Carolina and England are having thunderstorms at the same time.
Yeah, literally while you were saying that, it was like... I haven't seen any lightning though, which is like... weird, but yeah, it's cool. I quite like it. It adds to the atmosphere of the episode. Maybe.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So this episode is season 6, episode 11, Appointment in Samarra or Samarra, depending on where you're from.
Yeah.
And it's written by Sarah Gamble and Robert Singer and directed by Mike Roll. And before we started recording, I was like, this feels too random, I guess, for it just to be like a like the Samarra, like what is Samarra, like why are we in Samarra, what's going on? So I looked at what Samarra is. It's a city in Iraq, like an ancient city. And I was like, well, that's got nothing to do with this episode. That feels kind of weird. So I typed in Death in Samarra, and then a book with the exact same name came up. Cool. And it's all about the self-destruction of the main character over time. So I'm just like, oh, yeah, that makes much more sense.
It makes sense, yeah. I understand why you picked this book. Yeah, it's good. Like, I
might actually read it. It sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah. I always need new book recommendations. I have read all my books. I am out of books.
How have you read all your books? I have so many books that and I finish one and I'll get another one on my Kindle, but then I have like 5 or 6 like physical books that are just sitting on my shelf.
You just gotta read the books. Just gotta do it. Just gotta do it.
And I've got some that I'm like halfway through and I'll pick it back up again and like know exactly what the story is. I'm like, how do I remember this stuff? Yeah,
I am the same with that. Like, well, I find I don't sleep very well, especially if I'm like on my phone. But if I read, my brain gets tired.
These words, oh my God.
Yeah, you know, when you like fall asleep with your book in your hand, you're like, okay, now it's time for bed. It's fine.
Yeah.
I finished one, what was it called? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. It was something about monsters because I asked for a horror book for Christmas or something. So my husband bought me a book that's like a, surprise book. It was quite good. It was kind of like Lovecraftian horror. It was good. It's like a constellation of monsters or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. You don't listen to my book recs. But yeah, I read that recently. And I also read one about the Knights of the Round Table fighting climate change. That was interesting.
That actually sounds kind of amazing.
You can borrow that one. I'll send it to you. It's good. I finished it. I'm not going to read it again. But yeah, here we go. Book recommendations, but only vague ones. They're like riddles. You have to look them up yourself if you want to.
Yeah. We're not going to give you the title. You just have to type it in.
You just have to feel the vibe of the book. Like, just find it based on vibes alone. Yeah, I really like this episode. I watched it last night before we recorded. And when I initially watched it, I was like, oh yeah, not as much happens in this as I think it did. And then I like went away and thought about it. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? This episode makes me mad.
It makes you mad?
Yeah. Because I think I feel like there was a fan theory at the end of season 15 that was like, maybe Dean will become Death. I feel like, do you remember this theory that was sort of floating around? Like at the end of the series, maybe Dean will become Death. And
no, I don't. I'm not so much online in those spaces, so I didn't see that.
I'm sure there was. Maybe I'm making this up. Again, also, fan fiction and canon is one and the same in my brain. So if you remember this online, sure. But I'm sure I remember this theory that like maybe this could happen because, like, the whole like Billy situation. Mm-hmm. And I did wonder at the time, like, where did this theory come from? Because I completely forgot about this episode.
Right. Yeah.
But like, I think this whole episode and how it frames fate and how the Winchesters like mess with fate, it just gives them more reasons to be like mad at God. There's like a point in this where they're like, where does the list come from? And Tessa's like, I don't know. But like we know, don't we? We know where that list is coming from.
Right. Yeah, it's the like massive library.
So like it's like, yeah. I don't, and having been death for like a day or however long it wasn't like a full day, right, Dean?
It's like 4 hours.
Yeah, whatever it was, yeah. I think it does give him a better understanding of like the cosmic nature of the universe. But then it sort of almost has like no consequences on him. I don't know. It's a very strange episode.
Yeah, like I feel like it should have had like the weight of this episode should have been greater. Like everything that he learned in this episode, he immediately unlearns because Sam gets his soul back.
Yes, exactly right. And like, do you think that's part of like, again, like almost like Billy's frustration with Dean? Because she has real beef with him. It was like, you went all through this, you were death for a day, you understand all the domino effect consequences of you messing with fate like every time you do it, and yet you still continue to test me.
And the thing that made me laugh, like quite, it wasn't supposed to make me laugh, but because it's a rewatch, it made me laugh, of Death saying, I'm always going to be here. And it's like, your concept will always be here. Yeah. Yes, but you no.
Yeah.
So, and like, again, I felt like this episode was really forgettable, which is a real shame because it's like, it's actually quite interesting. Mm-hmm. But like, when he has all of those interactions with Billy, it really should be more like, look, you were death for a day. Like, make a callback to this and be like, you know what happens when you mess around with this all the time, like you said. Yeah. Like, but it just, and I mean, even a callback in the last episode would have been better than the speech that he gave. Yeah. Right? Right. Like, just accepting that this is now the natural order. Yeah. It still would have sucked. It still would have been horrible. But at least that way, like, I don't know. It's him realizing that, I mean, he does realize that every time they come back that, like, it's never a good thing. But, like, it's not in the same, like, gravitas as the way this is put and shown.
You don't kind of see any repercussions either. Like, bad things happen to them. Maybe that's the point that Tessa was making. That, like, I know I'm slipping way ahead into this episode, but, like, you know, that girl, she says pain and destruction will be following her whole life now, like, if you don't reap her. Mm-hmm. Maybe the whole situation with, like, Dean and Sam are like, they shouldn't have come back from the dead, so this is why bad stuff happens to them. Maybe that is, like, the whole cause and effect thing that they're giving. But I feel like that's a read into it that maybe could have been made a little bit clearer. But it's not, maybe, again, not necessary. I'm not sure. I'm never sure what they should, like, show and what they should tell us in Supernatural, because I feel like we often make, like, massive leaps. But I don't feel like they respect us enough as an audience, as writers, to know that we're going to make those leaps. So it's like, maybe you should have just explained it just like a little bit more for us to know that that was actually the intent. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't make your intentions, if you don't want people misinterpreting what you're writing, then you need to make your intentions known.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, and you need to respect your audience slightly more than you do. Yeah. You know. I'm not.
Well, I don't know. We we knew how Kripke felt about the audience. Let's be real. He's put us in the show a few times in his time, and it was never perceived well.
No.
Or received well. I don't know. I don't feel like that kind of continues. Obviously, we get Becky, but Becky like does a really horrendous thing in the next season.
Oh yes.
But then she like, I do feel like she redeems herself because she's grown up, right?
Yeah, they do address the fans later on in the show, and like you're right, they show Becky's kind of grown up, which is kind of like a nod to the fans have kind of grown up with the show, and then they also have the like musical episode where they kind of acknowledge the sort of newer fans of the show, which I feel is that and actually again quite a positive light for that. So okay, maybe they did learn their lessons. But
but it wasn't Kripke who was writing those.
It wasn't
showrunner. At that point, it was just like, 200 episodes. The only reason why you're there is because of the fans at that point. Like,
yeah,
let's be real.
I feel like the same kind of criticism sometimes could be made of the boys. I know I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but like, there's been a lot of criticism of the latest season saying it's like too on the nose with their writing, because I get the message that they're trying to give and the satirization of current affairs, but I feel like previously they did do it in a more subtle way, and then it was like basically the Supernatural Convention episode where it's like, this is you, look at you, to their like alt-right people who watch the show. But like, yeah, I don't know.
The thing is, the thing with the boys is that I do like the actual gradual progression into what it's become. Yeah. Like, I don't think I could do another season of like subtleties. I kind of do enjoy this like kick in the teeth, like here's a mirror to like how ridiculous everything is, and like look how stupid you are. So I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I was actually gonna watch the new episode today, but I don't know. I couldn't.
Oh boy, you're in for a ride. That episode is wild. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not even gonna say what episode it is because that would date this episode. But yeah, wow. Yeah.
Okay, I'm like 15 minutes in, I think, and I was just like, oh god, is this gonna be like the orgy episode? Because it feels like it's gonna be like the orgy episode.
I feel like it's worse.
Oh god. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll get through it.
Yeah, message me after you watched it and be like, just send me some gifts.
Let's get back to this episode.
Yes, stop talking about the boys. Yeah. Yes.
Different Kripke show.
So I did enjoy this. I really liked the directing. I thought Mike Roll did a really good job. I feel like some shots in this were really reminiscent of Kim Manners. There's a shot of Dean like looking up, and I was like, oh, it was so nice. And the colouring in this episode too was like, it felt like sort of season 1, season 2 Supernatural at times. I don't know if that's because they're supposed to be like in the spirit space or whether, but it kind of followed it through the whole episode, so I feel like that was just a choice.
I think so too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it looked visually very nice.
I also really enjoyed like everyone's characters in this episode. Yeah. I loved how Tessa was just like fed up of seeing Dean, because this is the 3rd or 4th time that she's seen him, and like he just won't die. Like at some point you're just going to be like, oh, come on, you again, and I can't take you. Yeah. Like, ugh. Obviously Julian Richings, phenomenal. Like he commands this like, he commands this like respect from Dean, and Dean's like scaredy cat kind of attitude is just really like, he gets really up himself and then he gets cut down by death, and he's just like, oh yeah, I love that. Which I can also understand why he ends up ultimately killing Death, because that gets, can get kind of annoying. Yeah. And like, again, Dean in this whole episode was amazing. Sam was actually really good, and like I could feel the fear from Soulless Sam, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then like some of the lines Bobby had were dark. Like if anyone's going to point a gun at me in this house or kill me with a gun in this house, it's going to be me. I was like, what?
My man,
you can't say that.
You can't say that on primetime television. Yeah, there was some really good character moments in this. It did really push everyone forward. I did enjoy it. I think what it is about Julian Richings is like he has really dark eyes, like, and like I don't know. There's just something about that. It gives him like a really intense stare. Yeah, yes. I think his characters he's so good, and he's a very he's a very commanding presence, despite being about a foot shorter than Jensen / Dean. Like, which yeah, again, and they do shoot it that he's like looking up at him. They don't try and put them on the same level, which I thought was really an interesting choice as well. It's like, well, he doesn't need to be as tall or taller than you to be a commanding presence. Like, he's death.
Yeah, exactly, and like the way he's just like sit.
Ooh.
Like, not please, not nothing. He's just sit. I'm just like, okay, I've already sat down, but fine, I'll sit down.
I'll sit down more.
So yeah, let's get into the episode, and we can go through it, and yeah. So we have the recap, and it's Death's intro. I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to hear the song again, but it is what it is. We're also introduced to Tessa again, the Reaper, and like what Reapers are. Yeah. We get a little bit about the power of the soul. And then the last half of the recap is all about how Sam is having second thoughts on having his soul back, and how it's locked in the cage and it's mutilated, and how it could destroy Sam if it was ever put back into him. And Dean just saying, look, we'll just figure out the consequences afterwards. Like, if there's any complications, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it always goes well. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And again, this episode addresses what complications are. And like, the thing is, when he tries to when he does fix his mistake, that's the only time he ever fixes his mistake.
Yeah.
Right? He never, like, Dean never fixes his mistakes. But in this episode, he does. And it's just like, this feels very out of character. And like, I don't know how I feel about that, actually.
I think if it had been a pivotal moment of him like, oh, maybe there are consequences to my actions, it would have been better. But then he goes and does another thing that has massive consequences. And I don't know. I think maybe at the end of the episode, you're supposed to see like remorse that he's made that choice at the end. But I feel like he's also just like, he's determined. Like, he's happy in the choice that he made. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So Dean arrives in the Impala, and he's at like a Chinese market, and he's asked one of the, like, is a butcher, and he asks like, I'm looking for, and the guy just tells him to go to the back of the shop.
Yeah.
He then goes up some steps and like touches a banister, and it's like, and, like kind of wipes his hand on his like jacket. He's very creeped out by everything here, and like, I think it's because of the witches. Like, he doesn't like fluids because of witches and like stuff like that.
We've said before, like, Dean is actually quite a clean freak. Like, he does stuff like wipes public phone handles down before he uses them. You know, like that is shown in the TV. You know, in the show that he does that. And when they do eventually live in the bunker as well, like, he cleans up after himself, like fastidious. I can't never say that word. Fastidiously. So yeah, he's a bit of a clean freak. That's fine.
Even though he denies it right in this like beginning part.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you are. So he meets a Dr. Robert.
Yeah.
And Dr. Robert knows John Winchester when he had a medical license. Clearly, being with John Winchester probably lost his medical license, let's be real. And he leads him into...
I was going to say, there's nothing worse than like someone wearing a dirty lab coat. That is the thing that icks me out massively, because the whole point of wearing white, like chefs do, is to like show that you are working in a clean environment. So for someone to come out in their skanky lab coat, yeah, I would, Dean, run, man, run. Are those syringes clean they used? Oh,
Well, at least, well, actually there is one syringe that goes into his arm. So,
Yeah.
but the rest of them, but yeah, no, all of that felt bad.
Back alley Doctor Bad. Yeah, I get what they're going for. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're not sure what Dean is up to at this point. Like it's very unknown as to like why he's seeing this doctor, and he's all nervous. And it turns out that he is going to die.
Yeah.
He is trying to die. And they're going to bring him back after 3 minutes. And so once he's put under or put to death, he goes into the middle of the shop and he summons Tessa and argues with her to like cool death. And she's like,
He calls us, we don't call him.
is very adamant that she cannot do anything. And then behind, like you hear Death's voice saying,
All right, Tessa, thank you very much. Hello, Dean.
It's quite interesting that he calls Tessa rather than Death, because surely Death is there if Dean is dead. Does that make sense?
yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure Death was always there.
Yes.
Because he keeps tabs. He keeps tabs on his pet. I don't know, because he obviously has the ring, right?
Yeah.
Because we find that out in this episode. So like, you would track where your ring is at.
Yeah. I think that's the point they were trying to make with him just appearing. Like, oh no, he was already here. You know, like he's too cool for school. He doesn't need his underlings to come get him. Death knows you.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Like, there's something about the way you said that. Death knows you. I'm like,
that's a tattoo and a half.
Yeah.
I guess that's one thing. Like when they do, they don't remember when they die, right? They established that like they died many times before, and they don't always remember when they die.
Not always, because they get their mind wiped.
Yeah,
because of it. Yeah,
it's
not always.
It's almost a shame because like I feel like Death and Dean should be friendlier almost. Like I get the contempt, but the banter should be there.
So before season 5, Death was locked away.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
It was Lucifer who released Death.
Yeah.
So. But we don't know why he was locked away. Like, what did he do?
I don't know if he just like, the thing is like Death can't have been gone because like the essence of him exists because, you know, people are still dying. So I think it's maybe that he released his like corporeal form so he can like walk the earth. That makes sense. Rather than the existence of him. Yeah. Which would make sense they still haven't met then, right? But yeah. I guess to be fair, Dean and Death do get a bit of bants, you know. As the series goes on, they do. Yeah. It's amazing that like, you know, they're on first name basis.
I mean, does Death have a name beyond Death?
No, but you know, just the fact that he, you know, they eat pizza together and stuff. It's kind of like
true.
Yeah,
that's true. Death brings you food. That's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Death wants to feed you. That's also really weird.
Yeah, I kind of like the. I like it. I just like Death's characterization in Supernatural. Yeah. I think it's very cool.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Which Death would you want to meet you? Dean?
Yeah.
Billy? Or Death from Sandman?
Probably
like
Death.
The show.
Death from the Sandman, because like she seems competent but nice, right? And like I feel like Julian Richings would be kind of scary, just a little bit, right? But also Dean incompetent.
True.
Incompetent but hot. I don't know, like, you know.
Yeah. I think I would also choose Sandman Death, just because like her being of like, well, it's, you know, it's nice to be meted by a friendly face. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And like, if I saw Dean, I'd be like, oh no, where am I going?
What happens? Yeah, what happens? Wait, was Supernatural real this whole time?
Yeah, right.
They're like absolute. Oh, yeah. But yeah, anyway. So, yeah, Death is eating something. And, oh no, he doesn't eat in this bit, does he? He's just there. He's just there. So, you know, Death says, I'm busy, talk fast, because, you know, he's everywhere and all at once. Everywhere, everything everywhere all at once.
Something like that, yeah.
So Dean kind of tries to bargain immediately by saying that he has his ring, and Death's like, well, I loaned you that temporarily. Like, also, time means nothing to Death. It's okay. So he does say...
I'm sorry, you assume that I don't know where you've hidden it.
Obviously, he knows where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Dean wants Death to go get Sam's soul because he figures that Death is probably the only being powerful enough to go do that. Okay, I found this really interesting because Dean does mention that Adam's in there too. So there's Lucifer, Michael, Sam, and Adam. And he does ask for both of them back. He asks for Adam and Sam, to which Death just says, pick one. And the amount of time that once Dean's processed that, he says Sam is like 0.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope that Adam never sees this, never rolls tape on this, and how quickly he was like, yeah, Sam.
Yeah, I know. That just proved Zachariah's point that, like, Dean will always save Sam first.
Yeah, and that is true. Yeah. So, yeah, poor Adam. And I think this is the last mention we get of him now until we see him again. I think this is the one.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too.
Because Death does say that, like, he doesn't bring people back. Like, he might bring one person back, but 2 is, like, pushing it, mate. Essentially. And they talk about the fact that Sam's soul is really corrupted or broken by his time in the cage. Death sort of, he makes this sort of analogy. He says, do you think the soul is a pie you can slice? Because Dean asked if he could just, like, cut the hell part out.
The soul can be bludgeoned, tortured, but never broken, not even by me.
He can't erase Sam's hell, but he can put it behind a wall. But it's definitely not going to be permanent. It's there to stop for a while.
Yeah, it's a dam, literally.
Yeah. So, you know, that's the choice then. So soulless Sam or Sam with a soul with this, what they call drywall, and they continue to refer to it as drywall throughout this episode.
Which I think is a great analogy because, like, drywall is, like, papery thin.
Yeah. So Death agrees, but he says that Dean has to win a wager. The wager is that he has to wear Death's ring for 24 hours without taking it off.
But why? Simple, Dean. Because...
And then Dean gets revived. So it turns out he was dead for like 7 minutes, which is super long.
That's a long time.
But yeah, they managed to bring him back. Even Dr. Robert is quite surprised as well. I'm surprised. Like, this Dr. Robert guy really has no morals. Like, he knew John Winchester, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll kill your son, you know, for some money, and then try and bring him back with a, what does he say, 75% success rate?
Yeah, that's really not good.
It's not good. It's not good. No. That means
that is a passing grade, but not a very good one.
It means there's a 1 in 4 chance that Dean would die. Like, that's, yeah.
Well, is there really? Like, Death is going to be there. Death is not going to take it. Well, Death could take him. He could be like, you know what? I don't want to put you back because...
I don't know.
Because we do know at the end of this episode that he was never going to let him die.
Yeah.
Right? He was never going to let him die.
Because there is a list and they're not on it. That's why Tessa's so surprised to see Dean. Right?
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
And also, like, of course he's not on God's list because, you know, there's plot to do.
Well, of course. I mean, he's always going to have plot armor, but, like, I think it's funny that the one person who I feel like could defy God, which is Death, doesn't. Like, he just follows the plan. Like, it's almost like he doesn't want to think about what he has, like, his job. Like, it's just, he goes to work every day, does it, and that's it.
I guess that's why it's interesting that Billy, like, decides to help them, right, in the end. Because she is the one probably most powerful and placed to do that. And yeah, the old Death was like, nah, it's all working fine. The cogs keep spinning. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. I was really confused,
Yes.
right? So we cut to Bobby's house at this point. I thought Sam walked off at the end of last episode. Like, why is Sam back?
That is a really good question. He's got nowhere else to go. Like, he doesn't know what else to do. Yeah, because he was like, Sammy. And then, yeah, you're right.
Right.
I assume has happened is that they did part ways. Dean went and pulled off this stunt because if Bobby knew he was doing this, he would have been like, hell no, boy. You know?
True.
It's not the last time Dean kills himself either to like go and talk to yeah. Anyway.
They need to find a better way. But I guess they can't bring a Reaper out of their like realm. No. Right? But Death can do whatever he wants.
Oh no, they can. They can do that because Lucifer does it at the do you know what? I'm gonna ignore episode like 15, 19 on this because But they can bring Reapers into the corporeal realm. That does happen.
Well, actually, so Cass can see Reapers. So I assume that Lucifer can do something so that everybody can see them.
I like that. So Dean's option was literally killing himself instead of, just calling Cass and being like, can you help me find a Reaper? When you've got a real beef with your boyfriend, that's how you know,
Yeah, I'd rather die
than call you for help.
Than ask for your help. Yeah. That's so true. That's so true.
Terrible. But yeah, so I'm guessing, yes, that Dean went and did this, got all the information, and then like rang Sam, was like, look, I have a lead on this. Do you want to come see what's up?
But Sam doesn't want his soul, so why would he be there?
Something to do, innit?
I don't know.
Something to do on a Sunday afternoon.
Like this podcast.
Yeah.
No. This is much more significant than that. Yeah, so obviously there's two writers on this, Sarah Gamble and Robert Singer. I think Robert Singer was editor and like cut things, because I can see this episode being much longer, but they didn't have the opportunity to make it 2 episodes. They had to make it 1. So Robert Singer came in and like chopped a bunch of it out. And I feel like this part is one of it. And like it can be overlooked, but it was just like, huh?
Yeah, you're right though. You are completely right. Like he did just do one and now he's just here and they don't address it in any way. They're like, where have you been, man? It's like, why am I? Or say like, yeah, you called and what? Any kind of line like that just to tie the episode together. I don't know, fine.
No.
So yeah, Dean's explaining to Bobby and Sam like what's going down.
You what? Just hear me out. I heard Cass and Crowley when they said it would either kill me or turn me to Jell-O, Dean. I heard enough.
Death said he can put up a wall.
A wall?
Yes, a wall that basically you wouldn't remember hell.
Really?
And then he outright lies to Sam because Sam's like, well, is it a permanent wall? And Dean's like, yeah. It is. No, he said it could last a lifetime, which is not what Death said. That's not what Death said.
No.
So he's like, it could. So I guess he's not outright lying. He's just kind of like, I don't even know.
Is it Winchester lifetime?
Yeah. So 2 weeks.
Right.
In my last 2 weeks. I get like, Sam's like, we're playing pretty fast and loose with this Dean. Like, this is my life. And Dean's like, I'm trying to save your life. But he's not though, because Sam is alive. I don't know. I'm still finding the soulless thing very confusing. Like, because
especially with the way that he talks about it in this episode, like he talks as if this Sam is somebody else other than the other Sam.
He kind of is though. Like by putting a soul back into Sam, they're like killing this dude, right? Or at least
I'm interested to see like where like the next few episodes go in like is Sam trying to battle these 2 versions of himself, or are they just gonna cut out this soulless version? I don't know. I don't remember. But I don't know. You're right. It's just I wish they sat down and just like defined what soulless Sam is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just made it clear.
Like, because if he dies, does his, like, awareness just, like, snap back to the cage? I assume that would happen because his soul's there. You know, he's not going to heaven.
True.
So, I mean, Dean's right in a way because Sam is damned, right? His soul is in the cage. So if this, I do assume that if this Sam dies, then he would also be aware that he's in the cage. So by taking his soul out of the cage, he is kind of saving him somewhat because there's then a chance for him to not go back there.
Or is it like, I mean, Sam's been referred to as a robot, but maybe it is more like that. So like, because Sam is alive, but it can't function without, you know, like an operating system. Like, this is just an operating system that, like, once the body dies, there's nothing else. Like, it's just attached to the body. So he, like, this version of Sam wouldn't know it went back to the cage because the body is dead and it would be cremated.
I think you're probably right with that, to be fair. So what you're saying is that Soulless Sam is like essentially just like a jellyfish. Just eats and breathes
Autopilot.
and has no brain. I'm not saying jellyfish don't have souls. I'm just like, you know, that's the kind of analogy. I like robot better, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Dean's explaining that he has to wear the ring. They're like, why? And he's like, I don't know. For reasons. Like, for fun. And then Sam is like, oh, you know, I need to go think about this. And he walks off. They meet him outside at a hole under one of the cars because that's where they buried the ring. So they got there before Sam did. Which made me think, like, what else is buried there? Because there's definitely a couple of bodies because, you know, Bobby was going to, like, bury that monster. Isn't there Kami for Rufus?
Yes.
And then they've got Death's ring and presumably the other rings separated.
True, yeah.
Just buried under there. Not really mentioned again. What else is in that yard? Like, what dark secrets are there, Bobby?
Too many.
Way too many.
Too many.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, so this is what I was saying with, like, I guess because it's in a lot that they haven't put the cars in yet.
Yeah.
But when they killed the Kami, like, why didn't they put it underneath other cars that are there and, like, put cars on top? Anyway, I already said my piece on that. I just want to say it again.
This is hiding stuff 101, guys.
Exactly.
So yeah, they have the ring. Sam didn't get the ring. He is clearly working against them to get his soul back. Because Dean goes to leave and he whispers to Bobby, like, watch him. Yep. Sam and Bobby have this kind of standoff once Dean's left in Bobby's house. And
So is this the part where you pull a gun on me and lock me in the panic room?
Do I have to?
No.
so then Dean puts on the ring. He's outside the house to do that. And then he disappears somewhere new. And Tessa's there with him to guide him, presumably. Like, she's been sent by Death to help him out. She says, they'll just let any slack-jawed haircut be Death these days. She's not happy about this. I mean, because she just thinks he's going to mess up. That's essentially why.
I don't like this. Right now, I'm not crazy about you either.
This is your boss's idea, not mine.
True, but you have a long history of throwing a wrench in everything, so let's just stick to the rules, deal?
The rules are?
And the rules are literally are quite easy. That he has to kill everyone that she tells him to within the next 24 hours because they are on the list. And no, he can't see the list. So, yeah, she touches them, they die, then she reaps them. So there is like an order here of like they die and then the Reapers essentially take their souls and remove the ring and he loses. Said it's not my job to be your damn babysitter, but like, yes, it 100% is, Tessa. I'm so sorry for you.
Yep. This, because I mean, of course it is because like Death would know the list.
Yeah. He's just sent her like a little snippet of the list.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, Death absolutely manipulated Dean in this episode. Like, he knew he was destined to fail.
Of course. And Dean knows that. Like, as soon as he messes up, he's like, yeah, this was all stacked against me. The game was rigged.
No.
So we cut to Sam, and he's performing a ritual in a warehouse, which I swear is the same ritual. No, same warehouse from Changing Channels. Like, that 100% is the same warehouse.
Oh, probably.
But the outside.
But somehow it's on. Yeah, but somehow it's on Bobby's property, I guess. I don't know.
I feel like he
where
drove
went.
that. Okay, yeah. I don't feel like it was on... Okay, whatever. So yeah, he does a summoning ritual, and Balthazar appears. And he's like, Sam Winchester! Like, this better be good. Love Balthazar. He's just so sassy with his V-neck top.
Yep. It's such a deep V-neck. It's like in rivalry with Sam's.
Yep, it's so true. They're having like a V-neck of every time they see each other, the cut is just lower until it's like down to the belly button.
Exactly. So Balthazar is not happy to be there.
No.
Like, his cavalier attitude is very different from the last time we saw him. And he's like,
Well, here's one for the list of dumbest things ever. Summon the angel who wants to kill you.
kind of forgot that he wanted to kill them.
Yeah.
But he clarifies it's because, the last time that they saw each other, he said they told him that they wanted to fry my wings extra crispy.
That's so good.
And Sam's just like, well, that was a misunderstanding. And so Sam asks for angel advice, and Balthazar is like, well, go ask Cass. And Sam says, Cass can't help me with this. But I need to know if there's a spell or a weapon, anything that can keep a soul out forever. I guess. So this is okay. This comes back to a point that I've made in a previous episode. A lot of other supernatural beings can tell that Sam doesn't have a soul.
Yeah.
Why can't angels? Because Balthazar's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you don't have a soul. It's like, why do you need to, why do angels have to shove their hands into the like centers to find out if they have a soul or not? Are they just not that powerful? But they are. So I'm just like, what?
I agree. I 100% agree. I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe it's just so rare that they can like sense something is off with him, because that no one's outright said, I don't think that you don't have a soul. They've been like, something's weird about you, or like something's off about you.
The alpha vampire did.
Yeah. I feel like he's probably like, yeah, but he should just be as old as Angel. Yeah, I know what you mean. Maybe again, like it is just so like rare that they know something's off, but like they can't quite tell what it is. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Without sticking their hand in.
But then why can like the leprechaun could tell that he didn't have a soul?
We established fairies are stronger than angels in this universe.
So does that mean alphas are stronger than angels? Because the alpha could smell that he didn't have a soul.
I think he might be. I think they might be. No, I don't know. It does make sense because they shouldn't be.
It does make sense.
Stronger than angels. I don't know. Big
Anyway.
old plot hole. I agree. Maybe it's because of how souls are linked to purgatory, that monsters who are also linked to purgatory have a better connection with souls than angels. But that doesn't make sense at all. Don't even no, it doesn't make sense. It's fine. I'm just trying to find a reason, but there isn't one.
Yeah, I don't. Or Balthazar was just messing with him. That could also be a thing. But like, it's just weird because he's like, well, where's your soul, Sam?
Good God, no, it's not so. It is.
He tells Balthazar that Dean has found a way to put it back in, but he doesn't want it. And he's like, no, you don't. Because Michael and Lucy are hate banging it as we speak. Word choices. So Sam's willing to make a deal with Balthazar, but he's like, oh, I'll do it for free. Like, and the reason why is because he'll cash it in at some other point. Yeah. And that he's not a fan. He's also not a fan of Dean. So, screw, again, word choice.
Screwing him would delight me.
I love the way that Sam looks at him and like, what do you mean by screwing him? And then because he's like, anyway, to business. It's like, yeah, I think that's what he meant.
Yeah, I think that's what he meant too. Like, Cass is his best friend, and he can see how like Dean is affecting Cass. You know.
Yes. Yeah. It's so like if you ever like bitch to your friend about like what your partner is doing, and your partner doesn't like it, like not your partner, your friend doesn't like your partner after that. It's that. It's exactly
This is what happened here. Yeah. You know, Cass is like, they don't care about me. They don't care about the war in heaven. They only care about their own stupid souls.
Exactly.
You need to scar your vessel.
Meaning what?
Meaning something that so pollutes it, it renders it uninhabitable.
And it calls for something very specific, and he has to commit patricide.
Yeah.
Obviously, John has been dead, and he's like, well, you need blood of your father, but your father doesn't need to be blood.
Yeah, that's good. I like that tone of phrase.
Yeah. So then we cut back to the small town, and Tessa's explaining like the whole, like when people die, people are going to have questions, and like Dean makes a joke, obviously, because he thinks it's going to be a walk in the park. And Tessa tells him that it's like, usually what does it all mean? And Dean asks, will I magically know why? And she says, no. Nope. And she tells him to like suck it up and start with a gig. Like, come, there's a gig. So we go into like a convenience store, and there's a robber who is pointing a gun at the shop owner and his son. And Dean tries to approach and like stop this because obviously hero complex. But Tessa's like, they can't hear you, they can't see you, just let this play out. Yeah. And Dean's asking like who he's going to be taking, and she won't tell him. The robber gets distracted, and the shop owner shoots the robber, and Dean just watches as he like writhes in pain, and then eventually reaps his soul. The robber's soul says, why? And he says, mostly because you're a dick. Enjoy the ride down. Trust me, sauna gets hot. I'm just like,
yeah.
Ooh. They then go outside a cafe, and Dean's like, call me crazy, but that smells like a heart attack. So this old, like I'd say man in his 40s, and he's eating a very, very greasy pizza, quite like hurriedly as well. I thought he was going to choke, actually.
Yeah, I thought so too, yeah.
But then he keels over and has a heart attack. And the guy asks, like, well, why? And he's like, well, do you think it was the extra cheese? He's like, yeah, but it's good though. Which, honestly, it looked not good.
It didn't look good, yeah, no.
And then the man turns back, like he's about to go with Tessa, and then turns around and is like, wait, will you tell me what it all means? And like Dean thinks about it for a second.
Everything is dust in the wind.
That's it? A Kansas song?
Sorry, he's new.
I think I also would be really annoyed if like I got quoted a Kansas song. Like, yeah, I love that song. It makes me really, really sad. And I like, there's days when I just need to listen to a really sad song. Yeah. But lyrics to a song is my life. I know I quote lyrics all the time, but like, no, that's not all you want to hear. No, as you're being led away.
This was a really good joke though, because it's like all of this was a Kansas song. And it's like, yes, son, it was like, because it's the whole thing. I did like it. It was a good meta joke. But yeah, I would also be really annoyed. I don't know what would annoy me more. I don't know. Or if they were like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like 42, I'd be like, no, man, no, joke's old.
That's. Yeah, right. We've been on the internet long enough to know that that's not funny anymore. Yeah. What also made it really funny on a rewatch is like, obviously, because at one point Kansas was going to be playing in heaven. So actually, this is actually a pretty good callback if they had done that.
If they had actually followed through with that, like in the final episode, this would have made it so funny. Oh my god, just knowing that. Oh, that's awful. It's so bad.
It's great. I love it. So then we're back at Bobby's house, and Bobby's asking him like where he's been, and Sam's like, oh, you know, just around. And they start to play poker and have some beers.
Yeah.
We then cut back to Tessa and Dean, and they're in a hospital, and there's a father talking to his very unwell daughter, and Dean asks, you know, the dad or the kid, and Tessa tells her the kid, and he's like, come on, what, she's 13? And she tells him that she is actually only 12. And, you know, the father doesn't have any other family because the mother has passed. They have no other children.
Yeah.
You know, also Tessa says...
What, you thought it was all going to be armed robbers and heart attacks waiting to happen?
She's 12.
With a serious heart condition.
And Dean wants to skip her. And this is where it gets pointed out, like, you know, that Dean has to take her, and because death, and he's like, well, I'm death. Like, I'm death today. So, like, you know. And so he asks, you know, well, tell me who tells him. She doesn't know. It just is. It's destiny. And he has this line of saying,
Oh, give me a break. I spent my whole life fighting that crap. There's no such thing as destiny, just like there was no apocalypse. Just a bunch of stuck-up mooks who didn't want us human slaves asking questions.
well, I say the little girl lives. And, like, after watching the entire episode and coming back to this line, I'm just like, yeah, there was no apocalypse, but at the cost of your brother's soul.
Yeah. I guess it's like, well, I guess the point he's making is like, well, we were told that we had to be Lucifer and Michael, and that was like crap, right? We were told that was our destiny. We were repeatedly like punched in the face that was our destiny. So like, why is it this girl's destiny to die now? You know, like why? I guess the point Dean's making is like, why are we special with the whole apocalypse stuff? Like, why can't I just make these decisions? Because he does he does rage against the machine. Like that's his thing that he does. Like Dean doesn't go in for destiny. And when they tell him to do something, he's automatically like, no. Right? If it's something he doesn't want to do, it's like, no. Yes. That's just who he is. So it would be out of character for him to just go along with this.
True, and especially since it's not like, it's somebody who has their like whole life ahead of them, right?
Well, on top of this as well, like when, at the beginning of the episode, when he was about to like be injected and die, he gave the doctor a letter to Ben to give him.
Yes.
So it was making that connection of like, Dean still sees himself as like somewhat of a father. He can like relate to this guy. I think the only way they could have like made this more on the nose with that is if this was like a mum and her son, right? To mirror Lisa and Ben. But they didn't want it to be like too obvious. So yeah, it's a girl and her dad instead.
That's true. Yeah.
So he was always going to say no. And that was why he knew that the game was rigged against him, because they started him off easy, right? To like see what he would do. And the first few things, like they go like the robber easy because that goes against his like sensibilities. You know, he's like, yeah, he shouldn't be doing this. He's a bad guy. Like you said, hero complex. The second guy, like, is to Dean making like poor life decisions, the same life decisions that he makes, and I know are probably going to get him one day if hunting doesn't first. But yeah, then this one is like just untenable to him. Like he doesn't, because he is also a father in a not traditional way.
Yeah, that's actually very, very true.
And the thing is, that's why you know it was rigged, because Death gave Tessa the list. So like it was like, of course, this is going to be the sticking point. You know, if it was truly random, this might not have been thrown up, but it definitely was curated for Dean.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And like, my assumption is that there were only 3 names on the list.
Yeah.
Like that was given. The robber, the man, and the girl.
Yeah.
And like he was never going to reap anyone after that. Like that was it. And if he passed that, then maybe there'll be more. But yeah, Death knew from the beginning what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So then Tessa like calls him out on it and is like, you know what's amazing? You don't actually buy a word that you're saying, but he truly does. He stands by that like 100%. Like I don't get where she's coming from with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing is like he knows it's true for them. I feel like there must be some level that Dean knows that this has to happen, because if he wasn't dead at this point, this girl would just die. That there is some inevitability to like life. I don't know. I also kind of think that's because you're right. Like that's fundamentally who Dean is. He doesn't go like he fights the like plan, right?
Every turn.
That's why him and Cass are like besties, because that's what they do. Mm-hmm. Whereas like Sam is kind of tries to use the plan to his advantage. I feel like he'll go along with it so much as it's the right thing to do. But then once it's no longer the right thing to do, he won't do it. Like if he was put in the same situation, Sam would also not reap this kid. I feel like fundamentally sold Sam, not soulless Sam. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That is a hard one. I feel like he'd protest it, but maybe would eventually go with it because he knows there would be other consequences, because Sam can kind of see into that line of thinking.
Yeah, I think so too. And without these events actually going through, like it would take him a minute, but like he would come around to it much faster.
Because Sam would ask, what happens if I don't? Whereas Dean doesn't ask that. Yes. And that, again, that is what we were talking about before. Dean does things without thinking of the consequences. He never asks, well, what happens if I don't do that? You know, like with the whole Michael Lucifer thing, he never really asked, like, well, what happens if I don't become Michael's vessel? Because then he would have known about Adam and like basically sacrifice his younger brother for a decision that he decided not to make.
That's very true. He did kind of ask that, and they're like, well, he didn't ask the right people, I think, because the angels are going to be like, well, you are destiny, like that is it. But I feel like people outside of the angels would know that there are other options. Yeah. Like asking Zachariah would never have worked, like, because in Zachariah's mind, they are it, you know?
It's not just that though, it's like he doesn't ask himself. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't ask. True. He doesn't.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. The internal dialogue doesn't have somebody else there that isn't self-destructive.
That's why Dean's a bad Jiminy Cricket, because he doesn't. I feel like sometimes his compass is a bit broken, a bit wonky. You know, there's a lot of self-interest, not just self-interest, but like family interest there, that maybe doesn't get examined very closely.
Not at all, no.
Because I guess like if you think like not reaping this girl, like it's almost like who's he doing it for? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean he's why he's not making the decision. The decision has already been made.
Yeah.
Like, so him going through with the decision that's already been made is not a bad thing. But for some reason, it is. Like taking away somebody's family to him is like the worst thing he could do. But then because of what happens with the nurse and like how he basically destroyed a whole bloodline, he destroyed a bigger family by not destroying this small one, which is awful. Yeah, but
it's a tough one. Like I like, that's why I like this episode. I think it is complicated. It's very like trolley problem, you know, like morally.
Yes, but not really, because again, he doesn't have a choice. Like if he wasn't death today, she would have died anyway.
Yeah. Like exactly. Yeah. That's why it's like, oh, come on, I don't know. It kind of annoyed me because it's so. Like he said, it's so perfectly set up for him to fail, right? Because it was yeah. Anyway,
yeah. I mean, he was being taught a lesson, but I think eventually, well, even at the end, like he was being taught a lesson, but the lesson was undone because of Sam getting his soul back. Like, so that's what annoyed me the most about this episode, because like his actions have consequences, but in this case, the consequences can be overlooked because death wants you to do something. Yes. And it's just like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that.
I agree.
Yeah. So Tessa then points out, so all the times you messed with life and death, they just worked out for you. Like, it was just a beach party. And he's like, yeah, well, I know this much. I'm death. She's 12 and she's not dying today. And it's just like, you may be death, but you don't have all the powers of death.
He does. He's got the ring on, right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it did I'm sorry, I'm skipping a little bit ahead. It did kind of annoy me that, like, surely if she doesn't die that day, like, she has still got a heart condition. But no, for some reason, him deciding not to kill her magically heals her heart.
I know. Like,
I think
what?
that was like...
But then she still stays in the hospital?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would, I guess, because you're like, why has this happened? Maybe we should keep an eye.
Yeah, I guess.
But, like, I feel like almost a better consequence is be like, well, if you don't kill her now, like, I mean, she's still sick. You know what I mean? Like, you're not solving anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I do feel like...
But then again, like, I think... Sorry, I'm still, like, thinking on this while I'm talking. I think the whole situation of making her better and giving her family false hope, like her dad false hope, makes the situation worse for Dean. That, like, he should have just done it in the first place. And I think that's also part of it. So, okay, fine. I changed my mind.
I'm still on your train though, because like a trail of thought, because it shouldn't like magically heal. Like, it sounds like she was going was she supposed to die on the table, or was she supposed to die because of her heart condition?
I think it was just then and there, like right before the operation. Which again also doesn't make... Okay, right, no. Okay, I don't know.
Which doesn't make sense because she would have been sent home.
Yeah, because the operation gets cancelled. That's why the nurse dies. That's supposed to be like the butterfly effect. But then he was supposed to reap her before she even went... I don't know, look, like, whatever.
Well, so I guess what would have happened... No, the nurse might not have gone home.
Yeah, that's the point, I think, yeah. It messed with the nurse's day. That's why she left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is not how that works. But anyway, that's fine.
Like, yeah. Oh, yeah, my operation got cancelled. I get to go home. That's not like... No doc... That's not ever happened to any nurse ever. They've been like, okay, well, there's other stuff to do.
Ever. Always. Especially a hospital nurse. Yeah. Like... What are you talking about?
It's like, okay, prep the next patient, for this operating room that is now free. Like, what the hell?
Exactly. You move up your next patient. Like, anyway, yeah. We're back at Bobby's house and they're still playing poker. And there's huge tension between the two of them. Like, it was so, like, you could just tell something was about to happen. And, Bobby offers to get another beer and goes over to the fridge. Sam tries to attack him from behind, and then Bobby turns around and like knocks him out. And I love the line that Bobby says here.
May have been born at night, boy, but it wasn't last night.
Oh, such a good one-liner. As Bobby gets a rope and turns back to Sam, he's gone. Yep. He's like, oh, that's not good. Let's not be hasty here, Sam. Like, I may have just hit you with a pipe, but like,
it's all good.
Chill.
It was, you did try to kill me first.
Exactly.
So Bobby like runs and hides in a closet, and Sam's running after him with an axe. Like, does a whole Shining thing, which Bobby does call out and just says like, "Don't say here's Johnny." It was like shot the same way. I did appreciate that. It was quite good with him looking through. But he's got all like blood on his face now as well. Like, Sam looks not human, right?
Yes.
He does look very like monsterish. There's all like blood on his face. He's got a weapon. He's like just going after Bobby with no real expression on his face. It is wild. Sam says like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby, but you shouldn't have cornered yourself." Was like, "I didn't," and he pushes the button and a full-on trapdoor opens.
Do you think he built this after the zombie episode?
100% he did, for sure. Yes, because that definitely wasn't there before, and he's trapped in the same closet. I just want to know how much of Bobby's house is like Scooby-Dooified.
Oh, all of it. Absolutely, all of it.
Is there one under like the front door too? Because that's always what Scooby-Doo was. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And there's one that takes you from the second floor all the way down to the basement or straight into the, like, all of them, all of them. The like laundry chute goes somewhere. Like, yeah.
I mean, Bobby was in a wheelchair for like a decent amount of time. You can't tell me that like he didn't install some kind of like lift in his house, like an elevator.
True.
To get upstairs. He definitely like jury rigged something, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So Sam's now in the basement, and he's trying to kick his way through the door, but Bobby's like, reinforced steel core, titanium kick plate. Like, do you want to explain what this is all about? And Sam just says, like, I have to do this. You know, if Dean shoves that soul back in me, like, think how bad that could be, and I can't let it happen. It's not like I want to kill you. You've been nothing but good to me. And so, like, Bobby's like, what is this, a demon deal? And Sam's like, no, it's a spell. So, you know, they're a bit back and forth on this. That, like, Bobby's trying to convince him that, like, Dean says it's going to be safe. And Sam's just, like, basically doesn't trust that that's true, or that something could happen. And I mean, he's right.
Yep. I guess to your point of like he doesn't ask the right questions, like he also doesn't listen to the answers that he gets. So like he's been told multiple times that, you know, if you do this, it will mess up Sam because his soul is ruined. And he's like, yeah, but there's always going to be a solution though. Just do it. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. To be fair, I do have a very similar attitude to life sometimes. I'm like, it'll work out fine. It's fine. Just don't think about it. Just don't think about it too hard, and it'll be fine. So Sam says,
Look, Dean doesn't care about me. He just cares about his little brother, Sammy, burning in hell. He'll kill me to get that other guy back.
Which is what you were saying about, like, Sam sees them as soulless Sam sees them as two different people. And they kind of are. Going back to our Kingdom Hearts analogy, because it does work so well, they are two different people.
Yeah.
Like the nobody and the heartless.
Because, yeah, absolutely. They're completely different.
Yeah. So Bobby's like, I know it's scary, but do you know what's scarier? You. And like while he's talking to him, he realizes that he's not getting answers. So he opens the door and Sam is gone. And then he says,
Ain't nobody killing me in my house but me.
Like, I don't want to blow your legs out, Sam. He's like got his like shotgun or whatever. And Sam has escaped through the vent in the panic room. So he does know how to get out of the panic room, just saying. Yeah. That is fully established.
Which Bobby obviously fixed.
I mean, you'd hope so, like welded it shut or something. Yeah. Back at the hospital, Tessa is not talking to Dean, and Dean is like, well, you give me the silent treatment. But she noticed the nurse being wheeled back in from a car accident. And it looks like really bad. They say like fractured spine, internal bleeding. She had a heart attack in the ambulance, which may be connected because the girl had a dodgy heart. She's having a dodgy heart.
Oh God.
Hearts.
Oh God.
Everywhere.
Hearts. Yeah. It just, sorry, carry on.
The whole thing with the Reaper before was with heart. Death has a sense of humor and like but it's not funny. It's very dry.
Yes, yeah.
And they so we need Dr. Owens, which was the initial heart student. They're like heart surgeon, but he left because he no longer had operation. Silly.
Because that's how that works.
So yeah, Tessa explains what happened. Like, look, the nurse went home when she shouldn't have gone home or wouldn't have normally gone home. So she got in a car accident and she dies. There's no heart surgeon because he also went home for reasons. So yeah, she's going to die. So Dean has to take her, which he does, even though she's not on the list. Tessa explains that if he doesn't, just more consequences will happen. She's like the first, and it's a big old chain reaction. So they do like shout at each other a bit, and she essentially says like, "You put the ring on, do your damn job."
Do you know what's really funny? Like, she's Tessa saying you set up another chain reaction. He already did, but within himself. And I'll explain what I mean.
Okay. All right. Ooh, that's exciting. So the nurse, whose name is Jolene, she appears obviously as a ghost, spirit, whatever. And Tessa like fully rubs salt in this wound. She's like,
Actually, you were supposed to live for many decades, have kids, grandkids. Then why? Because he screwed up.
would you not ask as a ghost, like, well, who's this clown?
Right, yeah. I mean, she does turn to him and be like, you did this to me? Like,
yeah. So yeah, then Tessa's like, come on. And they sort of leave like, well, men.
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, so, I mean, I'm assuming Jolene went to heaven. It's sad, but like, yeah, Dean did mess up. It's not the first innocent person he has killed accidentally. Ooh. They head back to the girls' room, whose name is Hillary, and like they're talking about going on vacation and stuff. It's all very nice, and you're thinking, no, this girl's gonna have to die by the end of this episode. And she explains, like, you have to go kill her. Like, I tried to tell you already know, but she's disrupting the natural order by being alive. You of all people know what that means. Chaos and sadness will follow her for the rest of her life. Which is what I said at the beginning, like, maybe because they disrupted the natural order is why their lives are so bad. Is that the point?
Why they can never find happiness.
Yeah, I think that's the point that Tessa's trying to make. Is like, this is the chaos and sadness. Like, you're in it. You're in the sadness spiral. So you should know. Mm-hmm. When Jolene had died, her husband had come in and he was real upset about it, obviously, and then had left again.
Of course, yeah.
Dean spots him before he goes to, like, kill Hillary, and says to Tessa, just like, give me a minute, because you can see the guy's like not in a good place. Back at Bobby's house, so like when Sam fell through the basement, he cut his leg, and he has like a big gash on his leg. So Bobby is following that blood trail to try and find Sam, and he manages to follow it all the way to his like shed outside, where Sam ambushes him and like knocks him out and drags him inside. That's what happens in the B plot of this episode. Mm-hmm. So Dean has decided to follow Jolene's husband, and he is drink driving badly, like full bottle of whiskey in the car. Yep. And Dean is like, come on, pull over, but obviously he can't hear or see him. And Dean is shouting at him to stop the car because he's gonna like crash into other people as well, and cause like a huge accident. And then eventually he just shouts like, oh, son of a bitch, and takes off the ring so this guy can see him, and is like, stop the car! And he's like, ah! And they just crash into a parked car instead. And yeah, that's it. Dean took the ring off, so that's the end of that game, presumably. Ooh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah. So, the thing that I was saying with the chain reaction, because Tessa says that if you don't kill her, there's going to be another chain reaction. So he kills her. So her husband was never going to kill anybody.
No.
It was like, he would live his life and grieve and all of that, and it would be horrible for him. But he stopped the reaction any further. But in himself, he saw that something bad was going to happen. So he had to jump in, thinking that he had to fix it, which is the chain reaction in him, so which caused him to then take the ring off.
Ah, that makes sense, yeah. Because I thought he'd already kind of like paid it out, like a life for a life kind of thing, like Jolene died so the girl could live kind of thing. So there wasn't really...
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, there wasn't... You're right, maybe the guy wouldn't have ended up like causing a huge... I mean, obviously he was drink driving, but maybe he was just like, would have been fine if Dean hadn't interfered anyway. But yeah, you're right, I agree with you, that probably is the case. So yeah, because
the sadness and chaos was going to surround the girl, and like the natural... Okay, actually, I might take that back, because the natural order is for her to die, so people around her will keep dying. Yeah. But the husband is not related to the girl in any way.
I think it's just like a butterfly effect thing, right? If you change one small thing, it just like spreads out, because it's like, oh, a butterfly flapping on one side of the world could cause a hurricane or whatever. So I think it's that, that like, yeah, Jolene died, and then because she died, her husband gets sad, and maybe he drink drives and like kills a bunch of other people, and then their family decide, and it's like a whole cascade of events that he's set into motion.
Right.
Like she said, I think she says domino at some point. So yeah, maybe that's right. I think that sounds more right for the storyline. Yeah.
So, I mean, both ways is fun to think about. So Dean is outside the car and he's like yelling,
You there, Tessa? I lost. Sam's screwed. You happy? Least you could do is get my ass back home.
and it's just like yelling into the air. He then puts the ring back on. And while this is happening, like, the husband is like watching all of this, like, what is going on? Like, am I imagining all of this? Like, because then Dean like disappears. It's very much like Frodo putting on the ring.
I thought the exact same thing of Frodo putting on the ring when he did it. I love that. Yeah.
And Tessa is. Do you think she's genuinely sorry?
No.
About Sam? No, I don't think so.
No, I don't
either.
think she cares.
She's like, that's where he has to be. But the thing is, they're still disrupting the natural order because Sam's body is still physically on Earth. Just because his soul is like somewhere else. Sam is alive, so the natural order is even more screwed by these two separations of beings.
Yeah, because he shouldn't be around and affecting people's lives like that. He should be gone. Yeah, I agree.
He should be gone.
As with both of them, though, right? They should both be dead, presumably. So them being alive is just a huge, like, mess. Yeah. But then it's not, because they're all is part of the plan. It's all part of the plan.
It's all part of the
plan. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dean's like, oh, let's go. And Tessa asks why, like, where are they going? And they go back to Hillary's room, and he's like, unfinished business. And Tessa's like, it's over. Like, you don't have to do this. And she says, yeah, Tessa doesn't care. Tessa's done with Dean. Like,
it's over. You took the ring off. Anyway, I thought you wanted the girl to skate by.
No one really skates by. Do they?
And then he turns to the father and is like, you should say your goodbyes, and like wakes up. Hillary's already passed at that point. And she, like, the spirit of Hillary is there. She's like, oh, I'm dead. And he's like, I'm sorry. She asks about her dad and like if he'll be okay. And Dean's very honest and says, first of all, he lies, and then he's like, I have no idea. I thought with the way that she's talking, she says, I can't leave him, it's not fair, that she would stay as a ghost. Because Tessa doesn't have to take everybody if they don't want to go. So I was like, oh, I wonder if she's just going to stay. But no, she eventually goes. She then turns to Dean and asks, why did this happen? And it's very sweet because Dean gets down onto like crouches down and like talks to her very like straight on and says,
There's sort of a natural order to things.
Natural order is stupid.
I agree with you there.
And then it cuts to Bobby's shed, and Bobby's trying to convince Sam that like not to do this. And he's like, I've been like a father to you, boy. Somewhere inside, you've got to know that. And Sam's like, well, that's just it. Like, he needs a father. And just as he's about to like, this is very, I think I've made this reference before, but like Abraham stabbing his son up on the hill, off top of the mountain is very much that. Like, he's about to stab him, but reversed. And Dean saves the day, grabs his arm and says, hi, Sam, I'm back. And they're both confused because obviously he was supposed to have it on for 24 hours and it's been less than.
Yeah. One thing I think that's quite interesting is like Dean accepting this like natural order of death, because I'm just thinking on this now and like Dean's character later on in the seasons. And I think one thing that, I mean, it's always been the case though. It doesn't really change because this is already his character, and that he doesn't really try to save himself ever.
No.
He's very much like, well, if this is my time. And I feel like part of it stems from this, and part of it was there before. Like when he had only his year before he went to hell, he was like, well, you know, I'll try for a bit, but this is what's happening. Yeah. I just think it's in, I guess that's what Tessa maybe meant when she was saying like, you don't believe any of this, because he doesn't fight for himself. Like he fights for everybody else, but Dean never really fights for himself. I wonder if that's what she meant.
I also think that, like, you know, because he was asking, like, what do you say when somebody asks why they died? And he's realized that because he doesn't have an answer, that he has to go with, like, the established answer, which is the natural order. So, like, that's why he agrees that it's stupid, because he doesn't believe in the natural order. Not really. But, yeah, you're right. He definitely doesn't believe it for himself.
Yeah, it's very weird. Like, I don't know. This is what I think about this episode, is that I think it should have been referenced more when Dean makes decisions about things, or when they're discussing who to save or what to do or this kind of stuff. I just feel like, I don't know, there could have been more of a throwback to like, well, what are the consequences of us doing this going to be? Do you know what I mean? Like, because I know now.
I mean, and the biggest thing, right? I know it was a reaction to, I can't remember the conversation that they're having, but it was just a reaction. But literally killing Death. Like, you just think about that for a second. Like, well, no, it was part of the spell of getting the mark removed,
yeah, that
right?
was it, right? Yeah, and he was gonna kill Sam. I think that was the main reason. Death was gonna kill Sam. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And then he was like, no, no, yeah. This is what I mean. Like, I just feel like this episode was completely kind of forgotten in the lore. I guess what's being said has already kind of been said by angels and stuff. Is like, things are in motion, you have to play your part, there is destiny. But this is essentially Dean accepting that, yes, that's true, and then all his actions go against that. Like,
right, because technically at the end of this episode, there are no consequences.
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah. That's why this episode's so forgettable, because it's so encapsulated in itself. Like, there are no... Sam gets his soul back. Yay! That is what you take away from this. Yeah. And that's it. But, like, that's all that everybody takes away from this.
Yeah.
But this really heavy message of, like, messing with death is a bad thing.
And they're completely right. Yeah. I think that's what annoyed me. Because I was thinking on this and I was like, yeah, the implications this has. And then I was like, wait, but nothing changes. I know.
Nothing changes.
No. Anyway, so they got Sam. They got Sam. Dean knocked him out and they have him tied up in the panic room. And Dean just said, like, I can't keep doing this. I can't tie him up every time he tries to kill somebody. Like, and also that's not going to hold him, you know? Yeah.
I hate this of, like, so he starts to say because he's capable, and Bobby, like, says capable of anything. I don't like how ambiguous that line is. Because we've said this before, like, why is Sam suddenly like, I've said this before, why is suddenly Sam like so powerful, right? Why can he do anything? And then at the same time, I understand why he can do anything, because he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care what happens to his body. So, like, he'll break his thumb to get out of handcuffs. Like, having this gash on his leg didn't affect him in any way. He still climbed out of the panic room. So, like, but it's never established that Soulless Sam doesn't get hurt.
I don't like, why is he a superhero? I don't know. He's Sambot. You're right. It's beep boop Sambot. He's a Terminator.
Can he like just turn it off? Is that what's happening? But like we don't. I'm sad that like they didn't explore some of this more in like some of these filler episodes that they had. Like we had obviously Clap Your Hands If You Believe, and we had the funny side of Sam.
Yeah.
And like, you know, how empathy is not there. But like we never see the side of Sam of like, yes, he doesn't sleep, but we've seen him in pain.
I don't know. I'm kind of glad Soulless Sam is leaving us because I'm fed up of trying to explain him.
Yeah. Me too.
And understanding why.
And when we get other soulless characters, they're not soulless for as long and like not a main character, so they can just like skirt by with saying whatever.
Yeah, basically. I just like they didn't think it through. It's fine. Yes, so Dean does say, like, what am I supposed to do? Because he thinks he's lost the bet with Death, so he's not getting Sam's soul back. And Bobby's like, I don't know. Dean heads to Bobby's kitchen, and Death is there waiting for him. And he's like, Dean, join me. I brought you one. It's a hot dog from a stand in Los Angeles known for their bacon dogs, which I don't know what bacon dog is. It sounds good.
Sounds really good.
Is it like
maybe it's a hot dog wrapped in bacon?
I thought like a pig in blanket. Yeah, in a hot dog. I do that. So he just says,
Sit.
Dean asks, what's with you and cheap food? And Dean's like, well, Death says, I could ask you the same thing. Dean's like, yeah, it's true. He said, I thought I'd have a treat before I put the ring back on. Heavier than it looks, isn't it? Sometimes you just want the thing off. But you know that. So Dean's like, yeah, you know, like, of course you know I messed up. Like, come on, just say it, man, rather than like this weird riddle stuff. He goes, I sucked at being you, like I really screwed up the whole natural order thing, but sure you knew about that too.
So if you could go back, would you simply kill the little girl? No fuss, no stomping your feet?
Know what I know now, yeah.
Which is fair, because like other people died that maybe their time wasn't up or whatever. So if he knows he could have saved Jolene, like, and because ultimately he killed 2 people rather than 1.
Or was the nurse always supposed to die? Like, was this game so rigged?
Maybe.
Because, like what you were saying, the nurse went home because there was no surgery. But there would have not been a surgery because he would have reaped her before the surgery.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think it was just rigged. It was rigged from the beginning. Well, how it was rigged doesn't matter. It was rigged from the beginning. It was never going to pass. So Death just said that, like, oh, I'm surprised and glad to hear that. And Dean's like, well, you know, it would have saved the nurse. That's it. And Death goes on this, like, little rant and says, like, today you got a hard look behind the curtain. Wrecking the natural order is not quite so much fun when you have to mop up the mess. Is it, Dean? Like, he says, you throw your life away because you've come to assume that it will bounce right back into your lap.
The human soul is not a rubber ball. It's vulnerable, impermanent, but stronger than you know, and more valuable than you can imagine.
He's like, so I think you've learned something today. Like, okay.
But not about souls.
No.
Just about the natural order.
And that maybe he shouldn't take his life for granted. Death is essentially trying to teach Dean that he maybe shouldn't take his life for granted so much. And that also does not stick. So, you know.
Nope.
Yeah. So Dean just go on this thing like, look, you knew I wouldn't last. It was definitely rigged. Like, and to that Death just says, most people speak to me with more respect. And Dean just back down like, okay, yeah, this guy could just like kill me with a touch. Like, maybe I should be like chill.
Showed his belly immediately.
So Death's like, yeah, you know, it's been lovely, but I'm going to go to hell to get your brother's soul. And he's like, why would you do that? For me. And Death says like, I wouldn't, but you and your brother keep coming back. You're an affront to the balance of the universe, and you cause disruption on a global scale. I love Dean's like, I apologize for that. Like,
I wish that we saw the global destruction.
Like, what is this disruption? Like, why? What? Who?
Or is it beyond global because it's encapsulating heaven and hell too? right?
As I said before, like the chaos and sadness things followed them, and it's kind of true because if they hadn't stopped the apocalypse, right, which was supposed to happen, then the civil war in heaven wouldn't happen. This whole thing with purgatory wouldn't happen. The Leviathans wouldn't come back. Like all the people that have died because of all of those events, like are dying at a different time they would have died in the apocalypse, presumably. So it's all messed up. They've essentially had to like rewrite the playbook because the apocalypse didn't happen, or so everybody thinks, right?
Right. And death is the only one who would actually know.
But I guess it still messes with everything.
But okay, this is where it gets kind of I don't know. It gets kind of annoying because of how they change how death works, right? So it goes from being a list to like a library of like books and stuff, right? And everybody has like multiple ways that they could die. So does it really matter?
Right.
Like the natural order is like, is there really a natural order if there's so many different ways that a singular person could die?
But I think, wasn't it like, it's not that everyone has, like, all written in the books are people's deaths. It's just the Winchesters have all these like extra ones because they keep dying and then coming back to life, and because they are basically the main characters in the story, and God hasn't decided how they are ending yet.
See, I thought it was the opposite because I thought there was just one for Dean. I thought there was one book for Dean.
You know, I don't remember.
And like Billy, because Billy was like, "This is the way that you're going to die, but only I can read it."
Yeah, maybe you're right, actually.
And I'm not going to tell. I don't know. But then there was a whole thing with like reading the books to find out how God dies, right?
And then they realised that it didn't matter, basically. Like, it's fine. Anyway, that whole thing, we'll go through it, we get that. It is confusing. I agree with you, it's confusing. So it's fine. So, yes. And then Death kind of adds this little tidbit. And this is the other reason for this episode, is that they're linking the two plots of this season together with this episode.
Yes.
Because Death says, like, right now you're digging at something. The intrepid detective...
I want you to keep digging, Dean.
So you're just going to be cryptic, or...?
It's about the souls. You'll understand when you need to.
The thing is, they're not looking into what souls do. That all he's doing is looking into getting Sam's soul back. Everybody else is talking about souls and purgatory and all this. Everybody like surrounding them, but they're not paying attention to it. Like, I'm sure they've forgotten half of what's being said to them.
I guess the line that he's supposed to be pulling is like, who brought Sam? Like, why did Crowley bring specifically like them back to life? Why are they hunting alphas? Like, they haven't answered that question. That's the only like thread they haven't pulled yet, right?
Well, I mean, it's to get purgatory. We do know that.
Yeah, they do know that. I feel they know about purgatory now. Okay, fine. So yeah,
but there has been mention. So Balthazar mentioned it earlier about how powerful souls are, and I feel like so has Crowley. Like, people have mentioned the power of souls, but they haven't cared about it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I guess Death is like, maybe you should care about this. You know, I'm telling you,
I guess so.
Maybe you should care. Yeah. And so as like he explains this, and then Dean asks, with Sam, is this really going to work? And he says, call it 75%, which is like a callback to the doctor in the beginning. Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. And then Dean's like, Bobby! So they go to the basement, and I think Dean has like essentially like an old style doctor's bag. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Or is it a briefcase?
No, the Death has a...
Oh, yes, he brings it in. It's not Dean. Yes, that's right. Yeah, so Death brings in this bag. And it's all glowy and stuff. We've seen souls before because famine was eating them. So they know they're glowy. Yeah.
Yes.
And they were in briefcases.
They were. I do love that you cannot see Death doing this. Like, Sam and Dean are there. Bobby and Dean are there, like, watching Sam just, like, writhe, like, telling Death to, like, go away. But, like, they can't see him do this.
That's wild. You're right, actually. I don't think of that. That's pretty cool, to be fair. So Sam is real protesting. He's like, get away from me, don't touch me. And yeah, his soul gets put back, and Death says he puts the wall up. But he also says,
It might feel a little itchy. Do me a favor. Don't scratch the wall, because trust me, you're not gonna like what happens.
There's something about that delivery that is just so creepy.
yes, so creepy.
So creepy. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I loved it, but it was very, very
I
creepy.
completely agree. And then, yeah, so it's just the episode ends on Sam's soul being put back in, but it's Sam basically going like, no, don't do this. What will happen? And there's like this real intense like stare off between Dean and Sam. What happened?
So that was earlier in the episode?
Yeah, right. That was earlier in the episode. That went on for so long.
I forgot to mention that.
That went for so long.
Yeah, like what were they talking about? What were they talking about? Like, I want to know. I want to know. Like, is Dean thinking about is he actually considering the consequences at this point? Or is he like the consequences for Sam? Or is he thinking about the consequences of his failed actions of not being able to like, and then like, what is Sam saying? Like, because he doesn't have a soul. So he's like, he could be like, fuck you, Dean. What are you going to do to me? You're about to torture your brother. Like, what? But, I want to know. That's a convention question.
I feel like, do you think that Dean feels like putting Sam's soul back into his body is the natural order of things? Is that where this episode was trying to go with that?
So I said earlier, yes, because they're in two separate places, which is not supposed to, like, nobody should be in two separate places. They should always be together, or like their body should be gone and their soul should be somewhere else. So yes, that's why I think Death really put them back together.
And I don't think Death would have brought Adam back. I think he just made Dean make that choice to be mean, essentially, to make him make a choice. Because and also I think it was just to be like we acknowledge that Adam is in there. That's also true. Just to remember that, so you can mention it.
Yeah, because they've talked about Sam in the cage for like many times, and it's always just they've always only mentioned Sam and how Sam's being tortured, and not Adam. But we've also talked about how Adam is already.
That's what I mean. So I don't think that Death would have brought Adam back if, say, Dean had chosen him, because he's not doing anything strange to like the natural order of things, whereas Sam's body's walking around with no soul.
He is actually the natural order is for Adam to be dead because the angels brought him back. Yeah, so you're right. Death would have never brought him back.
I don't think he would have done, even if he made Dean choose just to be. I think like it's a power trip.
That's what Death does. Yeah. Because he tells him that, we've established you have hubris, but no leverage. Like that is Dean. He has hubris, but rarely does he have leverage.
I agree. So yeah.
So it's just Death putting him in his place. But like, it doesn't work because it's Dean.
I guess Dean like ultimately thinks that he's just doing the right thing in this case,
Yeah, I mean
that's what it comes down to in the end. Like, no matter how much he's torturing his brother or like killing this soulless guy, he's not really Sam. Like, he's getting his brother back, and that feels like the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It is a strange one. I think that's the kind of thought I want to end this. I feel about this episode is that it makes some really interesting points about how the universe works in Supernatural. And what Dean feels about life and death and destiny, and then disregards a lot of it. Yeah.
So I actually forgot to mention that this is the mid-season finale.
That makes sense.
So this episode, I'm just looking ahead at what the next episodes are. So this came out on December 3rd.
Whoa.
And then the next one didn't come out for 2 months. February 4th was the next time the next episode came out. that would have, I mean, that's a hilarious, that, oh my God. I don't think I could handle that long of a like stretch at that time, because, and what's really annoying, I know I've kind of jumped to like the end, but like, it's Adam Glass who writes this next episode, and he's a new writer, and so far his episodes have been boring and basic, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna come back to a really bad episode. Like Sam just got his soul back, and we're gonna have this like formulaic like.
Oh God, it is
episode.
bad as
Oh,
well.
no.
Like I remember this one, and it's bad.
Yeah, so I'm just like, oh no. Anyway, back to this episode. Sorry to cut you off. This should have had more of a significant impact on the lore of everything, and like changed more of the characters beyond Sam getting his soul back, but it really doesn't.
Like Dean is still self-destructive, you know, he does still throw his life away at multiple opportunities. He hasn't really learned that, but I feel like in some ways they do feel like unconsciously protected by the plot armor. Like it's always just going to be all right. It's always just going to like kind of work out, even though it kind of doesn't.
And it has to.
It kind of has to.
Because otherwise you get season 15. Like,
well, I guess that's the point. Sometimes I'm like, maybe they knew what they were doing with the last episode. Because maybe that's the point they're making, is like, well, you know, the plot armor is gone. Like, things don't always just work out just because you try hard. Like, but again, I still maintain that is a bad message.
Yeah, because there was no reason for them to go on the hunt in the first place.
So I guess that kind of ties into an episode like this, where you're talking about like that kind of stuff. Like, you know, it doesn't always work out. You have to be careful with yourself. Like, think about what you're doing. There are consequences to your actions. Just kind of stuff like that.
This episode was asking too much of the character of Dean Winchester.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is.
Like, you're asking him to change the 30 odd years of his life. Oh. Like, that's not gonna happen. Just because death is annoyed.
There's also like I think one of the problems with Dean as well is like there's an image of who he is in his mind. Like he is a hero who saves little girls and you know, stops robbers and stuff. But there's also the more truer part of Dean that sacrifices people to save his brother, regardless of who they are. Yep. And I think that was part of this as well, like meshing that in his mind of like, you know, you agreed to be death for a day, knowing that you would kill people. Like, you surely must have known what that meant in order to save your brother. But then that doesn't gel with who you think you are when the reality actually comes to you doing it.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. Like, he says he'll kill for his brother. Prove it. And then he failed. Even though he did kill the girl in the end, he did fail.
I think I like this one. Maybe I'd come back and revisit in like a few months or something. I don't know. Like, it's complex. I don't mind a complex episode. Like, it's allowed to be.
Yeah.
I do feel, like I said, I don't feel like it's given enough weight. I think that's the problem with it. I feel like it is a very weighty episode that we've talked about for a lot of like how this influences the characters and stuff. But I don't feel like the show gives it the same weight that we give it.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, that's going back to our whole thing about not respecting your audience.
Exactly. We've gone full circle.
Yeah. Just like this episode encapsulated.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I think that's all I need to say on that, I feel. I don't know. I mean, I'll be thinking about this one for a while.
I think so too. I really like the concepts of this episode. I think that's what it is. Like, as grim as it is, you know, we're talking about death and like killing a 12-year-old and like all this stuff. But, you know, such is life. I don't know how we bounce back from that.
I don't know. Let's talk about the next episode.
Yeah. So like we said, it's the episode after a mid-season finale, which means it's not going to be good. It's going to be a filler episode, let's be real. I don't remember. It's called Like a Virgin.
Right. It's got I'm gonna say one, like, I guess spoiler. It's got dragons in it, and I remember this episode, and I was so disappointed that the dragons were just guys. Like, I knew because it was supernatural that they were just gonna be guys, but they're just guys. They don't even do anything cool. They're just guys, and that's what makes it bad. I know. That's a big fine, but yeah. Sad times. There was so much potential here to, I don't know, fight an actual dragon, and they were just like, no, it's just dude, it's just a man.
Is that worse than the ending of Angel though?
Is this what it always comes back to? Was this worse?
Where you see the shadow of a dragon, and well, not even. They just tell you that there's a dragon, but like. You see nothing.
I feel like this is worse. At least they implied there was a dragon. This is like, they're just guys called dragons. Yeah. I don't know. Disappointing. But yeah. So yeah, I do remember this episode. I don't remember what happens in it, but I remember it being a thing. All right, yeah. I'm gonna wrap it up there, I think. So, at the end of this episode, I'd like to thank the Pixar Agora for his wonderful art that we used for our cover art. I said art too many times. Art. If you'd like that picture on a thermos, I'm sure you can get it on a thermos, go to Redbubble and order one. And then if you'd like to come talk to us about this episode, I feel like this was a deep one. Like, come talk to us about it. We're on all the social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, as Escaping Purgatory Podcast, and on Twitter is just Escaping Podcast, because, you know, characters and all that. So yeah, come say hi and talk about death with us. The character. Yep. Don't make it weird.
Please don't make it weird. So this week we had a sit down and a philosophy session with the meaning of death and natural order. But in the end, it didn't really matter because we're not changing who we are.
So true.
So hopefully next week we can find our way out. Bye.